Hey, Tucker. Is there a bird in there? Hello, everybody. Today is Tuesday, January 23rd. And I'm actually out here in the workshop. It's almost lunchtime. It's 11:35 right now, so we're getting started a little later than I usually would in the workshop. I had a lot of work to do inside on the computer. We're actually building a secondary website right now to sell candle supplies, which I'm really excited about. And that is Candeo Candlesupply.com. I've got a bunch of fragrance oils listed on there. We're going to be selling wax and wicks and containers and a bunch of different things. Excuse me. I'm working on getting those listed. It's going to take a while. Anybody has done web design before or just e-commerce in general, listing products on a website is very tedious and monotonous and mind-numbing, but it has to be done, unfortunately. So yeah, if you want to check that out, again, that's CandeoCandleSupply.com. There's a lot of fragrances that we actually carry in our own candles that we're reselling on there now too, so including campfire smoke in case you were wanting to try that. Let's see. Today, actually, I think I'm going to show you a tutorial of making our campfire jars. We make them with palm wax, so it'll be a palm wax candle making tutorial. Yeah, it's probably not going to be as in-depth as some people's tutorials are for making them at home. You'll kind of have to do a little bit more of your own research for scaling it down to meet your needs, I guess, so to speak. But I think I have a lot of information in there that might be helpful to people. So I don't know. I've been making palm wax candles as long as I've been making candles. That was one of the first waxes I started with back in 2007. So I have a lot of experience with it. It's funny because I don't think I know a lot of things about, how much could you possibly know about candles, honestly? But then, as I'm making them, I'm like, oh yeah, don't forget this and don't forget that. And I don't know, it all comes out. So yeah, hopefully there's something in there that somebody can learn from or use, or that'll help them along the way, because it can be frustrating at times when you're trying to make candles at first and you're just starting out. So many mistakes, so many I can think of over the years. Anyways, so we will get right into that. And yeah, if you have any questions, think about it at the end, and then you can send me an email or a comment and I can help you out. Thanks so much. Enjoy. As promised, I'm going to show you guys how we make our campfire jars. So we make our campfire jars with palm wax and wood wicks. And today we're going to be making them in our 12-ounce jar. It's 12 ounces, but it actually holds 14 ounces of wax. So in case anybody wonders, there's a difference between fluid ounces and the amount of wax it'll actually hold. And that can vary depending on the density of the wax. So you kind of have to just figure it out for every wax that you're using. Soy wax is different from palm wax, it's different from paraffin, it's different from beeswax, etc., etc., etc. Anyways, the first things first, I'm going to put out our containers here so that we can pour some candles. Now, if you're making these yourself at home and you want to make your own palm wax candles, you can use whatever kind of container you like. I would suggest using a glass container because palm wax is actually known for its unique crystallizing properties. As the wax cools, there is oils in the wax itself that cool at different rates. And so as the wax cools, some of the oils cool faster, some of them cool slower, and it creates a unique crystallized pattern, like a crackle look almost, as it's cooling. So that's what makes this a unique wax. It's really kind of cool looking. It used to be more popular when we first started making candles about 20 years ago. It's not so much anymore. It's a lot harder to find the wax actually, but it can be a lot of fun as long as you can find it from a sustainable source. Yeah, I'd say have fun with it. So we're going to start with, I think we'll start with 36 containers, 36 jars, I should say. Perfect. And now I'm going to go get the wicks. All right, so these are the wicks that we're using. I'm going to just hold them up so you can see what they look like. They are made of softwood. They're actually proprietary, so they don't tell us what kind of wood they're made of, funnily enough. And I do have people ask that all the time, so I kind of wish that I knew that information. It'd be nice. Anyways, I don't use them this wide. I cut them first, so I buy a larger size and trim them to the size that I need them. For your own purposes, you're going to want to test different widths in your jars to see which one is going to work with your wax and your fragrance oil. Every fragrance oil is going to need a different wick size. Some are going to need larger, some smaller. It depends on the viscosity of the fragrance itself and the flash point. And you're just really not going to know that until you test it. So test, test, test. That's really important when you're making candles. You're dealing with flames and you don't want any issues to occur. So the rule of thumb when you're burning a candle for testing is that it should actually burn for every hour that it burns should be 1 inch of diameter. So for example, if you have a 3-inch diameter candle, it should take 3 hours to reach the edges. If it goes significantly faster than that, your wick's too big. And if it goes way slower than that, it's not going to reach the edges and it's going to tunnel right down the center. So in case you ever wondered that. So I have my wicks right here already. And we're going to put these metal tabs on the bottom. I'm not actually sure if that's the name. I just call them tabs. They're probably wick holders. I don't know. That one's a little bit big. Somebody was using these, I think, to do double wicks, so we'll use these ones. So you're just going to put the tabs on the bottom. Okay, just don't fumble them like that. Just like so. And then we're going to glue them down into each container. I usually just set them in the container first, and then I come back and glue them. So we'll go ahead and do that for each of these, and then we'll come back and glue them down. All right. Now, the next step is to glue these down into the bottom of the jar. You don't want the wick floating around or anything when it burns. It won't be a problem at the top, but when it gets to the bottom and it starts to get melty down there, it will float around and then it can get too close to the edge, so we don't want that. I'm going to go get my glue gun. So as far as gluing these down, I personally use, it's a high melt point glue in a hot glue gun that we use, and it is really difficult to get off once it's stuck on there really well. If you're going to do this yourself at home, they make glue dots that you can get from any candle supplier. It's just like a sticker that you pull off and you stick on the bottom, and then you can stick it in the container. You could do that. You could also use regular hot glue. It may work okay with the palm wax. The big thing about palm wax is it has to be melted to a higher temperature in order to crystallize properly, and that doesn't always play well with regular glue. So yeah, that could be a little bit of an issue, but I say give it a try. You never know. You might be okay. Okay, so I'm going to glue all these down, and then we're going to get to pouring. All right, now that I've got all these glued down, the next step is to go mix up our wax. So let me take you over to the melter. All right, so we are over here at the melter. Well, I realize most people aren't going to have a 150-pound melter at home to melt their wax. I'm just going to show you how I do it. You can use lots of different methods, including the double boiler method, so you can look that up if you're going to do it at home. You can also get yourself a little Presto pot to do it in. That's how we used to do it back in the old days. I'm pretty sure they still sell those, like the Presto Fry Daddy type thing. Anyways, I'm just going to show you how I do it. Now, palm wax has a relatively high melt point. As far as waxes go, it's about 145 degrees on average. And I'm using a container palm wax. Glass glow is a common one. This one's a little bit different, but they're all pretty similar. You'll see a lot of different instructions on how high to heat your wax. The main thing you want to keep in mind is if you heat the wax too hot, like say over 200 degrees, and then you put a fragrance oil in it that has a flash point below that, which a lot of them do, your candle's not going to smell very strong because all your fragrance oil is going to evaporate out of there. So you don't want to do that, actually. I heat my wax to, I have my melter set to 194. And I can get the crystallization that I want just by preheating my jars. That's the main reason I think most people heat it up so hot. I don't have any problems with the scent mixing in, or like oil seeping out or anything like that. Also, I think the hotter that you heat it, it's going to shrink more as it cools, excuse me, and you're going to get more sinkholes inside your candle, which is a really big no-no when it comes to palm wax candles. But anyways, let us just pour our candles and then we will get going. Or pour our wax, I should say. All right, now we are going to go ahead and start by adding fragrance oil to our pouring pitcher here. I've got a scale underneath it, which I've tared out to 0, and I'm going to be using ounces to measure mine because that's just how I work. If you're doing this at home, you're going to probably want to start with 6% fragrance oil, which is roughly an ounce per pound of wax. And please use a scale of some sort to measure your ingredients. It's much more accurate to measure things by weight than it is by volume, especially since waxes all have different densities, fragrance oils have different densities, and volume is not going to give you an accurate reading at all. Okay, so let me start by adding my fragrance. And this is campfire smoke. All right, and now we're going to add the wax right over the top of that. Let me go get a pair of gloves. All right. Now, I like to add my fragrance oil before adding my wax because it kind of mixes it up a little bit as you put the wax in. That's just kind of, I don't know. I've always done it that way. I think it works a little better. I wouldn't recommend putting dye in the bottom with the fragrance oil because it gets stuck on the bottom of your pouring pitcher, and that's no fun. So now we're going to add the dye. I'm making gray for campfire smoke. And I have 5 different colors of dye that I work with. I have blue, yellow, and red, cream, and brown. So for us to make gray, I'm mixing brown with blue in equal parts. Of course, you could make, if you were doing campfire or any scent like that, you could make it whatever color you wanted. This is just what we do. All right. Normally I put this on my cart to mix it, but we're going to do it down here so you can see. Now you want to give it a really good stir. I would say mix it for at least 2 minutes to make sure everything is mixed together. Sometimes what I'll actually do too is I'll mix it for 30 seconds or so as a premix, and then I'll let it sit, and then I'll come back and mix it again right before I pour it. I feel like it gives everything a chance to kind of settle in. All right, and I'm going to come back to you after I'm done doing this. All right, I've got my first pitcher of wax sitting over here, and while this is waiting, I'm going to preheat some of these containers to pour it into. Now, if you're doing a small batch at home, you're going to be preheating 1 or 2 jars. That's no big deal. If you're doing a larger batch, like I'm doing here, let me give you a tip. Work from the center out. Because what happens then, as you're doing pitcher by pitcher, the center jars that you've already preheated and poured will start to actually heat these outer layers, and so on and so forth, so that there's less preheating required overall. It just takes less work. And then by the time you get to these outer layers, they're already a little warm on one side, so you only have to do the outside edges. It makes it a lot more efficient, especially if you do like multiple tables. I usually do much more than this, but this is just for a demonstration. So, all right, let me get started preheating some of these. Okay, now that I've preheated my center jars here, I'm going to pour my wax into the jars. I use a candy funnel to do that. If you're at home, you're probably just going to use your pitcher because that's what you're going to have available to you. I did forget to mention before as well, not everybody's going to have a heat gun. That's what I was using to preheat jars. You could either use a blow dryer. That would work. You can also set an oven to low. If you can set it below 200, I would say like 180 would be perfect, just for a couple of minutes, just to take the chill off of the jars. Other than that, you should be good to go. So let's go ahead and pour these center ones. Now, I am not going to be filling these jars all the way to the top. I'm going to fill them about, I'm going to say 97% full, approximately. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to let these cool all the way, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to actually drill holes in them. And we're going to do a second pour over the top. And the reason that I'm doing that is because even pouring at a cooler temperature with palm wax, you're still going to get caverns almost inside the wax. I guess I would call it that, where basically it's cooled faster on the outside than the inside, causing holes to form on the inside of the wax. And that's not good. If you have holes on the inside of your wax, when they burn, and the wick at some point will reach one of those pockets, all the molten wax that's already formed around the wick will completely drop down into that hole, filling it up, and all of a sudden the flame will get really, really big, and that can overheat your wax and cause it to all either A, smoke like crazy and just burn terribly, or in the worst case scenario, it could even cause the surface of the candle to light on fire. So we don't want that. So we're going to take all the precautions that we can to make sure that there are no holes inside the candle. Here we go. Now I'm going to go back and make the rest of these and come back and pour them. So yeah, just stay tuned. All right, I've got the rest of my pitchers ready. I've zoomed in a little bit so you can see more of the action. Not that there's much action pouring candles. All right. I already went ahead and preheated the rest of these. Needs a little more off the top. Basically, I'm just going to go kind of in a circular fashion all the way around and fill the rest of these up. All right, now that these have had sufficient time to cool off fully, it's been about 3 hours, I would say. They're hardened on the top fully. They're probably still a little bit liquid in the center. In fact, I can hear it when I shake it around, but that's totally fine. In fact, it'll make it a little bit easier to do what we're going to do next, which in my case is to drill a hole. There's a lot of different ways to do relief holes. I like to wait until they are sufficiently cool to drill them because if you do them too early, they tend to just form a second cavern inside. I don't know. It just seems like it works better like this for me, and it's just easier. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drill holes in every single one of these, being really careful not to go too far down so that I'm drilling into the glass. We're just drilling into the wax, and we're avoiding the wick as well. When you do this, you'll often feel the bit of the drill give a bit as it goes down because there's a hole underneath there. There we go. Now they're ready. Now what this is going to do is when we put the second pour over the top, that wax that we pour over, it's going to rush down into the candle and fill in any holes that are down in there. And it's going to be nice and solid all the way through. And I've seen this done different ways. Some people will wait until the wax is just set up and they will poke actual holes in the wax with like a skewer. And again, if you do that too soon, a lot of times it'll still form holes underneath the surface of the wax. You might think you're good, but that's not the best way to do it. I've also seen where people wait until it's pretty solid on the top and then they cut the wick and they flip the candle over. And I have tried that method. It works okay. There's two main problems that I have with it. One is a lot of times when these cool, especially in the winter, they cool a bit faster. You're going to get it's going to make like its own version of a relief hole. You wouldn't be able to see it because I've already drilled into these. Here, we can probably do this one right here. You can see, I don't know if you can see that or not. Maybe if I hold it like this. There's crumbs in there from the wax that I drilled. On the top right here, right in there, there's a little hole that the candle formed on its own, okay? And if you flip it upside down with that hole, the center will stay liquid for a long time. It will come right out and you'll have a problem. That method can work otherwise because basically what it does is it's putting the airspace at the bottom of the candle. So it still exists, the airspace is still in there, it's just moving it from the top to the bottom. I prefer to do it this way because then I know the candle's solid all the way through and it makes it a lot safer. So that's what we're going to do. Now I'm going to go get my wax and then I'll bring it back here and we'll top these off. All right, so I have some more campfire smoke infused wax, I guess you could call it that. I'm actually out of palm wax at my melter, so I'm gonna have to refill it, but we're gonna top off as many of these as we can, at least for this video. And you'll often see them bubbling as they trickle down into that hole. And the level will drop a little bit, so you might have to come back and top it up even more. That'll do it. All right, well that's as many as I could get with the wax I have left, but it gives you a good idea. So basically what you want to do after this point, you're going to let them cool fully. I would give them at least 24 hours to be nice and solid. And then you're going to trim all of the wicks to 1/4 of an inch. And then you're going to put on your lids and then put on whatever labels you want. Ours, when they're done, they look about like this, a campfire jar, which you can find at our website. It's a really popular candle. This is actually one of the first ones that we really had success with on Amazon. And nobody thought it was going to be that way because who the heck would want to burn campfire in their house? That's what a lot of people said, but it's one of those things. It's fun and I don't know. It has a lot of nostalgia, I think, with it. You know, you smell that smell that you smell when you come home from camping and it's in your clothes and in your hair and everything else. And that's kind of what the smell is, more so than like a fresh campfire smell, but it's pretty nice. I don't know. I don't know, been a long time since you went camping and you miss it and you could burn this. If you have a gas fireplace and you miss the smell of your wood stove or wood fireplace, you could burn this in its place. There's a lot of reasons. I don't know. It's just fun. Anyways, Remember, that's at www.candeocandle.com. I'll put a link down in the description so that you can find that. And then if you have any other questions about this, about the full process or anything I missed, because I'm sure I missed quite a lot, just leave a comment and I'll answer as best I can. Yeah, you can also email me at customerservice@candeocandle.com and I can get back to you that way too. Either way, I think that's going to be it as far as the tutorial goes. Now I just got to see what else I'm going to be doing today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're getting started here, and I know we've only got, well, this is our second video, but you know, there's going to be a lot more to come, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in the future. You know, a lot of people ask me what Candeo stands for, by the way. Candeo is Latin, and it means to shine and to glow. On that note, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and don't be afraid to shine.